Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the land on which this webinar is being hosted. The University of Regina is situated on Treaty 4 lands with a presence on Treaty 6. These are the territories of the Nehiyawak, Anishinaabeg, Dakota, Lakota, Nakoda, and the homeland of the Métis and Michif nations. This land acknowledgement is part of an ongoing conversation as we work toward reconciliation. I'm so pleased to welcome our speakers, Dr. Heidi Cramm, Dr. Nathalie Reid, and Dr. Heather Hadjistavropoulos, who will be talking about supporting well-being in family members of first responders and other public safety personnel. What you don't know cannot help you. So today, we will learn more about the PSPNET Families Wellbeing Hub. Let's get started.
Thanks so much, MC. So I'd like to kind of extend our territorial acknowledgement here because as we recognize beyond the walls and the region upon which the University of Regina is based, PSPNET families or team members are situated all across the country. So we've really been able to pull together a great team with lots of different expertise. So as a result, we would really like to recognize and honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, the original guardians and stewards of this land, and the treaty relationships that bind us through affirming our commitments to reconciliation and to addressing historic and present harms. We're going to move through a few different sections of the conversation. So I'm going to start with our introductions, and then we'll move into the what, so kind of to take you through what PSPNET Families is, and then so what we're seeing in the preliminary evidence, and then into the now what. So looking ahead at what is coming. So I'm Heidi Cramm, and I'm one of the 3 project leads. So here with me tonight are Nathalie and Heather, and we have joined forces with our own kind of collective experiences and research and our research programs, and we have pooled that expertise together with me, with my Families Matter research group, and with Nathalie with the Child Trauma Research Center based at University of Regina, and Heather with the Wellbeing Innovation Lab, as well as PSPNET. So we're very, very happy to be able to share with you the products of some very intense period of time. So through the significant investment through the Public Health Agency of Canada and a tremendous effort from, as you can see by all the names on the screen, it really has been a tremendous effort. We have pulled together this very interprofessional pan-Canadian team of researchers. We've also pulled in the international leads from other countries who are really working in this very new space for us to help understand what's going on for public safety families. And one of the things that I think is notable about the development of this is that many of us actually are connected to these communities ourselves. So so my husband is a career firefighter. He's been on the job for 28 years. Last year, he got his long service medal. I got my long service companion pin. And we really see this as something that is for families like ours, for families like yours. And we're very pleased to be able to share the results of a very intensive period of work. Thank you.
So what we thought we would do is, just before getting started into actually PSPNET Families, we use a lot of words, and so we thought we would situate them just a little bit. So for us in this project, the term family is really, we really understood it quite broadly as representative of parents, guardians, spouses, significant others, close friends, biological, adopted, or chosen family members and adult siblings. Basically, anyone who has a close, caring, and responsibilized relationship with a public safety personnel serving member. PSP Life then represents kind of the unique things that make PSP Life different from sort of a more mainstream way of being in the world. And so we look at kind of the demands experienced by family members resulting from public safety personnel, from the risks and the requirements of the job. Then PSPNET Families is our actual well-being hub. It is a website that we launched in December of 2022, and it's kind of the term we use, PSPNET Families, to describe this online offering that we're going to talk about tonight. So just a quick timeline so that you can see it's been, as Heidi made reference to, fast and furious, but also wonderful. Since March 2022, we have been working hard to really develop, refine, enhance, and translate this well-being hub. The Spouse or Significant Other course that Heather's going to talk about in a little bit was launched in the summer of 2022, and then the rest of the site came online in December. And then after we did some evaluation, which we're going to share with you today, we're moving towards yet another kind of iteration, same content, but just a little bit of a different look and feel. So now we're going to move more fully into the what. What is this section? So we wanted to start off the project really by identifying some of those things I was saying before that make PSP life different from a more mainstream way of moving through the world. As we all know, there's lots of things that make it different. And so we came up with a way to better understand it, which helped us create the content. So we came up with that there are logistical things that make PSP life different. Those are the structural requirements from the work that can spill over into the home. So things like how balancing shift work and family life, you know, really kind of makes it hard when you don't fit into a more typical routine, or when shifts fall on holidays or birthdays or things like that. The second one was risks, which really is, I mean, kind of self-evident, but it's that exposure in more heightened and daily ways to the physical and psychological risks of the job, and then the impact of those risks, but also worrying about those risks at home. And then the identities piece was really, there's so many different layers of identity in PSP life, from the organizational expectations to the identity pieces that PSP family members and PSP hold of themselves and each other, and then also the layer of the public expectations. And we came to understand that this identity piece is felt quite deeply. So once we had the logistics, risks, and identities kind of figured out, we were then able to look at some of the distinct factors, like the things, the lived things that were shaping those dimensions. And we decided that we were going to create this online well-being hub that offered different things. So depending on how you were coming to it, you would find something that you were looking for. And so what we tried to do was develop content that was specific enough to be useful, but general enough also to reflect the diversity of the different sectors that are represented in public safety, the different geographies, the different family compositions, life stage or career cycle stages. So it was quite a big challenge to be able to incorporate all of those variables in a way that was meaningful. And what we did is we decided to have kind of layers. So the first layer would be just basic information. I want to know about this, and it's an information page about that. The second layer was a strategies and skill building pages, where there's actually things that you can do and download, and we'll show you in a minute. And then the third layer is the spouse or significant other internet cognitive behavioral therapy, or internet delivered, sorry, cognitive behavioral therapy well-being course. And that is the third piece, where if you're coming to the site and you really want to do some good work on yourself, that is your space to go. So what we thought we would do is take you on a little bit of a tour of the site through some screenshots, so that you can see, so that it doesn't feel unfamiliar to you when you go and visit it. And the website is down at the bottom, it's pspnetfamilies.ca. So when you just type in pspnetfamilies.ca, you land on this page. And on this page, you'll see there are the three sections that I just mentioned: the information pages, the strategies and skill building pages, and then the spouse or significant other well-being course. When you click into the information pages, what you're going to see is that we have 5 categories of information pages. And these were kind of what we were able to tease out and distill from the logistics, risks, and identities pieces we identified. And within each of these 5 categories, Then there are information pages. So for example, if you click on the effects of PSP work and home transitions on the families, then you come in and you have 3 separate information pages. If you click on one of those information pages, what you're going to see is that each of those pages has a hyperlinkable, clickable box at the beginning that tells you the sections in that Learn About section. Then there's also an audio piece, so you can listen to the content if you would rather than reading. And then there's some kind of visual or interactive piece where you can click around and read and listen and sometimes drag things just to make getting the information a little bit more of an active process, so it's not just heavy reading all the time. Then at the bottom of each page, of each information page, you're guided to strategies that are related to this particular topic. So that's one of the ways you can get to the strategies pages is, okay, I've read about or I've engaged with this kind of information, and at the bottom here's where they suggest I go, and you can go into those strategies. The second way is to go back to the landing page and then click on the strategies pages. And when you do, you come up to this page. And what you'll see is we have divided into 2 subsections. So there's strategies specific to the family and strategies specific for couples. And there's everything. I know the font may be kind of small depending on what kind of screen you're on, but there's everything from support systems and childcare to sleep to how to create and have good, meaningful couple time. There's a whole swath of different strategies and skill building exercises. And when you click in on one, each page has some intro material, yes, but then there's on each one either an activity sheet or a interactive piece that's downloadable. So you can download it as a PDF, you can fill it out on your computer, you could fill it out by hand, and you could post it on the fridge to remember. And then afterwards on each strategy page, there are reflection questions. So let's say you decide to try a new strategy for a week, and afterwards you come and you look at the reflection questions. You can understand how it worked, if it worked, or what could be different, or if you want to keep going. And I just wanted to emphasize here that it's really important, I think, for all of us to always remember that not all strategies work for all people all the time. So it's not a failure. If you try a strategy for a week and it doesn't float your boat, it doesn't work for you and your family or your significant other, then that's great. Maybe there's opportunity to try something else. Now we are going to go back to that landing page and imagine that we clicked on the spouse or significant other well-being course. Heather?
So my piece of this was to help work on the development of this spouse or significant other well-being course. In this particular course, what we're trying to do is take the information that's typically shared in face-to-face cognitive behavior therapy and offer it to spouses or significant others who might be experiencing difficulties with their well-being. So maybe depression, anxiety, symptoms of PTSD, stress, those types of things. And what we're doing is offering this transdiagnostic ICBT course. We included it because there's a lot of evidence to show that these types of courses are effective. There's also evidence, though, that they're most effective when they're tailored to specific groups. And so we really took this course and tailored it to spouses or significant others. And we did that by collaborating with spouses or significant others. And then, as we'll talk about later, we then offered it and got more feedback and then improved it over time. I should also mention that this course is the same type of course that we offer to public safety personnel. So it is possible for a PSP to take the course, and alongside the spouse or significant other could take a tailored version of that course for them. So it includes 5 core lessons, and like I said, it's kind of key strategies that we normally share in face-to-face treatment, but we offer them online because it's very convenient for people. It's usually like a safe way to get sort of a first glimpse at therapy and the types of information that's offered there. So the first lesson is really about identifying what's going on for you, thinking about triggers, what's triggering you, what thoughts you're having, what physical symptoms you're having, what behaviors might be present, and really kind of monitoring and getting sort of a pulse on what's happening compared to sort of this overall feeling of like not feeling well, really trying to define it. In the second lesson, we work on a strategy that's called thought challenging. So we're specifically trying to help people identify and challenge thoughts and look for sort of alternative ways to look at things. The third lesson is on managing physical symptoms, which we know are very common when people are stressed and having emotional challenges. So it addresses over and under arousal. The fourth lesson is focused on managing avoidance and safety behaviors, which are really common also when things are starting to kind of go downhill. It's usually our first go-to strategy is avoidance or doing things to make us feel safe. And then the fifth is about goal setting and relapse prevention. So each lesson is presented. It's not, it's kind of like self-help, but it's actually more engaging than that. So it starts off with a video introduction. There's a slideshow with lots of pictures and figures to support the text. The text is really easy to read. We have 8 stories of other spouses who are very diverse in terms of what they're experiencing and their challenges. And then we have frequently asked questions. And then each lesson also comes with a downloadable guide. In addition to those core lessons, there's all these other resources that are available as well. I think Nathalie is going to just show a little demo of this particular aspect of the site. Should mention that this is, you do require to create an account to get into this program. It just works better when you have an account to go through it. It's because the materials are released gradually over time, and it's displayed in a way you can kind of track and see what you've opened and what you've looked at, and sort of progresses you through. So there is a sign-up process for that. Also, because we want to know a bit more about people who take the course, there's a few brief questionnaires to start, and then at the very end we invite people to fill out the questionnaires again to give us feedback. Those last ones, of course, are optional. So we'll have you hit
Hi
play.
there. Today I'm going to give you a brief overview of navigating PSPNET. This is what your welcome page looks like. There are several options across the top, including welcome, which brings you to this page, courses, messages, profile, and the option to log out. I want to highlight this urgent care button. If you require any urgent care, click this and it will open another page with a lot of services and resources. There's crisis services links, other services and resources, including province-specific resources. Clicking on any of these will open a drop-down menu with more links. Let's go back to our client portal. Here you have Welcome to Online Therapy. Under this, you'll see any courses you're signed up for. There's also the option to pick up where you left off. Clicking this will take you to the last place you finished within your course. There's a messages box where you can click to get to your inbox or see if you have any unread messages. And also under your contacts, there's an email link if you need to get in touch with anyone for technical assistance. Let's go into your course. You can use this link here, pick up where I left off, or click the courses tab at the top. This will take you to your courses. Your current courses will be listed here, and your past courses will be listed below. Let's click the Resume Course button. In your course, you'll have the option to toggle grayscale on or off. Here are all the lessons included in your course. You must complete one lesson in order for the next one to unlock. If you scroll down, you'll find additional resources for your course. Clicking any of these links will open a new page with a PDF. For this course, we have an additional skills tab, common concerns tab with more PDFs, and a relationships tab. Let's scroll to the top and go into lesson 1. This is what your lesson page looks like. On the side here, it shows you each section of the lesson that you must complete in order to complete this module. Make sure you read all information, watch any videos, open any file attachments included. Click Continue to continue your course. Click Let's Begin to begin your course. You must go through each slide in the lesson or all of the content in the lesson in order to complete the lesson and move on to the next one. Click Next to go through the slides within your lesson. If you'd like to make the slideshow full screen, use this button. Then you can use Previous and Next to navigate the slideshow, or simply click to advance to the next slide. Click this to exit. There's also a Back to Overview clickable link that takes you back to this overview page of your course. The Go to Additional Resources link will take you back to that same page, but it's scrolled down for you already to the additional resources. Lastly, let's take a look at your messages. Here you'll find your inbox with any important messages or updates. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Hi there.
Hold
Today
on.
I'm going to give Hi there. Today I'm going to give you a brief overview of navigating PSPNET. This is what you're looking at.
There we go. Perfect. Let me just return back on my side here. Excellent. Thank you, Heather. And I really like seeing that and seeing the movement of it. It helps me better imagine. So now we're going to move to the next section, which is the what are we learning part of our site. And so what we decided to do was to look at different aspects that we could get different kinds of information from. And so we actually looked at the Google Analytics information for the site. We looked at some social media feedback. And then Heather and her group did interviews for the Spouse or Significant Other Wellbeing course. And that gave us some really good information. So these numbers, sorry, at the top, the total views and total users are actually a little bit higher. These ones come to us now from about mid-October. So we have about 1,000 more, 1,000 more users, and that should read 36,183 views. So 36,183 views and about 11,000 viewers. And the same with the Spouse and Significant Other Wellbeing course. There has been actually quite a lot of uptake in the last little bit. The other things we're learning are that the information categories that have the most amount of views are the workplace requirements, public expectations, and the effects, where the least viewed is the effects of PSP work and home transitions. The most viewed information page itself is experiencing the ripple effects of PSP's unprocessed trauma. And believe it or not, the least viewed information page to date is understanding resentment. I was feeling resentful today, so I'm quite surprised by this. And then the most viewed strategy page is improving sleep, which I think we could all use. And the least viewed was supporting well-being, which is actually really important to recognize, because oftentimes I think when we are in families in which there is a serving member, there's a sense of taking care of, right? How do we improve sleep? But really, when you look, it's about helping others. It's about how do we, support the PSP member, and supporting our own well-being. I don't want to say always, but often takes a bit of a backseat. And so this data reflects that reality. And our site is kind of there to say, you know what, we need to take care of ourselves too. So between September and March, so September 2022 and March 2023, our social media accounts had more than 1.6 million impressions, likes, shares, that kind of thing. So showing some pretty significant interaction. And what we did is we analyzed some of the posts with the most engagement. And one of them was an influencer Libby Ward, who has an Instagram and a TikTok post, and it had over 11,000 reactions. And then when we looked at what it was telling us, what we found was so interesting was that across most of the comments, we could kind of distill them into 3 boxes, and they were resonance, or like, I feel so seen. For the first time, I feel understood. The second one was disconnection or connection, like others don't understand. People don't know what it's like to be a PSP spouse or to be a PSP in a family. You know, there's just this disconnection from sort of more mainstream living. And the third box was that it's really complex, that there are complex identities and a lot of layers. You know, I have my own full-time job, but we have to really cater to shift work or things like that, and needing to be the glue that holds it all together and makes it all work. So those were kind of from the social media posts across, those were the main themes that we were able to see. Now on each page at the bottom, there is a thing that says, you know, was this information useful, yes or no? And then if you click yes, there's subcategories that come up, and if you click no, there's subcategories. And we haven't had a huge amount of uptake, but what we've been seeing in the uptake we have is I've learned vocabulary. I've learned new vocabulary from my experience. I found what I needed. It helped me really better understand my experience. And the one that warms my heart is that it's comforting to realize that others are experiencing the same thing as me, which comes back to that connection disconnection box, realizing you're not alone and that there are others who are living and experiencing similarly. Heather? Oh, you're muted, I think.
Yeah. So for the spouse or significant other wellbeing course, we collected information in different ways, but I think our richest data came from 26 interviews that we did from SSOs who had participated in the course. And in those interviews, we really consistently heard that people liked the material, that they appreciated it, they liked the layout, they liked the stories and examples, and they really appreciated the convenience and accessibility, especially given their lifestyles. That said, they did give us some suggestions for improvement, which we've been working on in terms of like giving them extra time. That we had, you know, suggested sort of working through this in 8 weeks, and they wanted more flexibility. They suggested that we needed some expansion of our stories and some new content, and to make some technological changes as well, and content delivery changes. So we've gone on and done all of those things that they suggested, which is what you want to see. The other thing that we did was we really heard from them and got confirmation on this model that Nathalie talked about in the beginning, about the challenges that spouses face in terms of the logistics, the risks, and those identities. So some of the things that they told us were that they do have spillover effects, that they do feel overburdened. There's loneliness and isolation for many. They want to know about PTSD and how to support their spouse with challenges, which they're observing. They also talked about experiencing their own trauma from being in a PSP relationship, that what they're exposed to, and that stigma prevented them from seeking help. They confirmed that there's little support for families. They also talked about that they have to be caregivers in addition to having their own full lives. So they have a lot going on themselves, and then on top of that, they have this caregiver role that they're often playing, and sort of increased responsibilities that they take on. And then also this idea that they're unique, that they notice that their lives are different than the people that they're spending time with if they're not PSP, and sometimes that they don't feel understood as a result. And so move on from that. Nathalie?
This is the next slide. So I think you pretty much landed on most of this, but that the uniqueness, there are needs that need to be addressed. Anything else you want to pick up here, Heather? I don't want to speak for you.
No, just really, I think this is sort of the combined, that what we were seeing is that definitely that that PSP families are unique and that there is a need for a special website for PSP families with this Wellbeing Hub, and that it's really landing with users. And we saw that consistently from the Google Analytics, from the interviews, as well as through the social media.
Awesome. So now we're going to move to the what's next section. So the first part of the what's next section is that we've worked really hard. At first, we worked really hard and really quickly to get as much information as we could to be as useful as we could. And what we found was, and if you look at the kind of the column on the left, what we had was quite text heavy. It was a lot more just here's the information, and it wasn't very visually appealing. So we moved to what we were calling version 2, that is the middle column, and had a little bit more of those tiles. It was a little bit easier to navigate. And some of the feedback we were getting from users was that it wasn't really navigable originally, and it was easy to get lost. And so we tried to address some of those, and we are now kind of on the precipice of launching the 3rd version, where we think we've really paid a lot of attention to not only what is there, but how do you find what is there? How do you move through it? How do you layer up or layer down or layer across the different pieces to get the best user experience that you possibly can? So that 3rd version will be launched hopefully soon. We are waiting for the web developers. The next piece is translation. So everything now has been translated 100%, but it didn't make sense really to load it into the old version when the newer version is coming. So we're going to launch this beautiful kind of enhanced navigable version in both English and French at the same time. So we're pretty excited about that. Now, that being said, I have to say the Spouse and Significant Other Wellbeing course is available in English and French, but this is for the whole public-facing part of the site too. We need to catch up and get that done. We also want to bring more people. So what's really interesting is that there's no real national or big pan-Canadian organizations that serve PSP writ large. There's smaller, provincial or city or local organizations. And so what we're trying to do is get the information out about PSPNET families in every way we can, through social media for sure, but by going to conferences, by going to sector meetings, by going to family-specific events that are being offered by different locals, and doing that kind of work, just trying to get the information out so we can attract more and more people. We're also working, we don't want it ever to stagnate, so we want to keep building and adding information. And so in the Spouse and Significant Other Wellbeing course, there's been 5 new resources added since the beginning: culture, self-care, improving the couple relationship, supporting your partner with mental health and moral injury. And we're looking to develop other areas such as late career and retirement information, forest fire related information. And we're always open, we're always seeking for different ideas of how and what we could include that isn't there. And we are working towards also, because this is going to continue to grow, how do we support people when they come to find what they're looking for? And we're looking at different ways to curate that experience so that you don't have to sift through everything to find what you're looking for. You could put something in and it would help guide you through. That is what we're working on right now. And that is PSPNET Families.
Thank you so much to all of you for presenting tonight. That was so interesting, and you have so many rich resources that you're sharing, and I'm sure that everyone has been learning a lot. So what I would do now, I would invite the audience to write their questions in the chat box. So if you have any questions you would like to ask the presenters, it's now the time to do it. And as we are waiting for some questions, I do have a question myself for you. I was wondering, when you talk about the family, you are presenting resources that are designed for the family itself. So what do you have more specifically, for example, if you have some resources do you have anything for the children?
I can answer that if that's all right, and then anyone can jump in. So what we wanted to do was really start with working alongside PSP family members to get the base, like what do you need now, what do you wish was there, how do you wish it was there. And of course, anytime you attend to tensions or issues within a family, the downstream effect is hopefully better family life, which impacts children and youth both directly and indirectly, right? With having strategies and all that kind of, those kinds of things at your disposal, everyone kind of benefits. But in the longer term, that is my personal wish, hope, dream, and goal for PSPNET families, to have a PSPNET kids. So we have PSPNET, PSPNET families, PSPNET youth, PSPNET kids. So if anyone out there wants to fund my dream, you are more than welcome. Anyone else? I didn't mean to jump in, but I get really excited when I think about that possibility.
Thank you for answering this question. I have a question here from Megan, and she's saying that she's an honors student working on a thesis on the experience of current officers deciding to go through with the career. Will these statistics be made available as well? Have you looked into the impacts on children and creating a support page for them?
I already answered the kids part, so someone else can take the questioning.
I wish I could. Okay, I can see it down there. Okay. So when we think about, I'm not really sure what the statistics are that you're referring to in the question. So if you can add a follow-up in the chat, that would be great. But if we're looking at the impacts on children and creating a support page for them, one of the things that we're, as Nathalie mentioned, really trying to kind of do that indirect impact on children by supporting parents. So we didn't look at children per se. These resources are designed for adult family members. So it could be a parent of someone who joins the police force, for example. It could be, any kind of sibling, friend, anyone in that kind of loose enactment of family. We also want to be sure that we can steer people towards, and this is another one of the plans of what's coming next, is to be able to say there are existing resources for certain segments of our community. So if there are children who are experiencing the impacts of operational stress injuries, then Wounded Warriors, for example, is running some programs, virtual camps. We don't want to duplicate resources, but we want to be able to showcase the range of resources that are available. And so one of the things that we have been trying to do is pull together some of those resources. And the Families Matter Research Group also has a newsletter called Family Ties. So you can sign up for that. And that's a way to keep kind of abreast of things that are happening. We did a whole series on books for children that are specific to the population. So we're trying to make it easier to find some of these things in partnership with what we're doing here with PSPNET Families.
Thank you so much. So Megan is saying that the statistics in regard to what you found on who has used your pages most. I think this is great, and I would like to offer it as a support in my research, as a tool for officers and their families as they participate in my research as well.
So the first publication is going through the review process right now that describes some of this early stages developmental evaluation. So we hope to have that out in the next couple of months through that process. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't know if we have other questions. Yes, I have another question here Maybe it's going to be the last one because I see the time going by. So last question. Can you talk about the privacy issues with respect to a person's medical psychology care? For example, the PTSD sufferer may fail to mention some of their behaviors, but spouses usually are never included in their care. How can the spouse's perspective be heard?
So that's definitely a challenging issue and something that we have heard before. I think one of the things that's available within that spouse wellbeing course is there's a module on like communication. There's one on assertiveness. There's these new ones that were developed on supporting a spouse. So I think that there's a lot of information that's in there that gives strategies for really, you know, how you can really kind of have to talk to your spouse about getting involved in care and how you sort of navigate those tough conversations. And I really appreciate that that is challenging. That's why I think something like the wellbeing course has some kind of more in-depth ideas about how you would do that. And then I'm not sure, Heidi and Nathalie, if there's something on the other parts of the website that you can think of that you think might be helpful for something like that.
Yeah, I think that you said it really, really well. You know, we are not offering on the public facing side, we're not offering therapy. However, on the skills and the strategies and skill building pages, there's all kinds of stuff about how do you communicate. And if you're communicating well, then it may be easier to say, let's be engaged in care together. Let's figure this out together and move together. And so again, it's a little bit maybe more upstream, but there are definitely great strategies pages.
Yes, Heidi. Yeah.
I guess I just want to take a minute to reflect on just how common that experience actually can be. And so we know that spouses can recognize things that may not be reported by the person who's living with anxiety, depression, or PTSD to their healthcare providers. So we know that that can happen. And we also know that it can be a source of a lot of tension about what's really happening for the person, what they're dealing with. And I think one of the things that we really try to look at with PSPNET families is how the family is affected as a system. And so if someone is experiencing symptoms of PTSD, they may feel like it's only affecting them and that they're able to kind of contain the effects of that experience. But what we see is that these things ripple out into families, and that what affects one person goes out and reverberates into the rest of the family, and vice versa. So this is why we really need to attend to both the person and the other people in the family who are not serving, but to the family as a whole system. And the care pathways around mental health services don't always include family members, but there's certainly opportunity for us, and we do try very hard to encourage that to broaden. So can you be invited in to your spouse's session for part of it? Is that a possibility? So as Heather mentions, like, how do you have those kinds of conversations about being part of the care, but not just as Nathalie had mentioned, not just as a care provider, but how do you also seek supports? And the spouse and significant other course might be a great way. Sorry, dogs. To be able to actually, seek support for yourself, because that's going to have an impact on you as well.